Imagine a cold, dark lake in the Highlands of Scotland. The water is deep and murky. For almost 100 years, people have whispered about something living down there. They call it Nessie. You probably know the image I am talking about. It is a grainy, black and white photo showing a long neck and a small head rising out of the rippling water. This picture is famous all over the world. It is the main reason why millions of tourists visit Loch Ness every year. For decades, people looked at this photo and said, "This is proof." They believed it showed a prehistoric creature, maybe a dinosaur that survived for millions of years. Scientists argued about it. Monster hunters spent their whole lives looking for it. But what if I told you that the most famous evidence for the Loch Ness Monster was not a mistake? What if I told you it was a carefully planned lie? Today, we are going to look at the true story behind the surgeon's photo. Before we talk about the fake photo, we need to understand why people were ready to believe it. The legend of a monster in the water goes back a long time. There are stories from the year 565 AD about a saint stopping a water beast from attacking a man. But the modern craze really started in 1933. That year, a new road was built alongside the lake. This meant more people were driving by and looking at the water. Suddenly, reports of a dragon, or prehistoric animal, started to appear in newspapers. The world was fascinated, but they needed proof. They needed a picture. In April 1934, they got it. A very respectable man named Colonel Robert Wilson came forward. He was a gynecologist, a doctor, which is why the picture is called the surgeon's photo. In those days, people trusted doctors implicitly. If a surgeon said he saw something, he must be telling the truth. Wilson's story was simple. He said he was driving along the northern shore of the lake when he noticed something moving in the water. He stopped his car, grabbed his camera, and snapped 4 photos. Only 2 came out clearly. The best one showed that famous long neck. The Daily Mail, a big newspaper, published it. It was a sensation. Finally, the world had evidence that Nessie was real. But here is the secret that nobody knew for a long time. Robert Wilson was just the face of the operation. He didn't build the monster, and it wasn't his idea. The mastermind behind this hoax was a man named Marmaduke Wetherell. He was a big game hunter and a bit of a showman. A few months before the photo was taken, the Daily Mail hired Wetherell to find the monster. He went to the lake and quickly claimed he found fresh footprints of a large animal on the shore. He was very excited. But when experts from the Natural History Museum looked at the footprints, they started laughing. The experts realized the footprints were made by a dried hippopotamus foot. In those days, people used dried animal feet as umbrella stands or ashtrays. Someone had used an umbrella stand to stamp footprints in the mud. Wetherell was humiliated. The newspaper mocked him, and he looked like a fool in front of the whole world. He was angry and he wanted revenge. He decided to give the newspaper exactly what they wanted, a monster. Wetherell did not work alone. He asked his son, Ian, and his stepson, Christian Sperling, to help him. Christian Sperling was a model maker and a sculptor, so he was very good with his hands. They had a plan to fool the newspaper that had embarrassed Wetherell. They didn't build a giant monster. They went to a store called Woolworths and bought a cheap toy submarine made of tin. It was only about 14 inches long. It was a simple clockwork toy. Christian Sperling then took some wood putty. He molded a long neck and a small head out of the putty and attached it to the top of the toy submarine. They painted it gray to look like a beast's skin. They also added a strip of lead to the bottom to keep it stable in the water. The whole monster was actually tiny, only about 1 or 2 feet high. When you look at the famous photo, you think you are looking at a huge dinosaur in a massive lake. But actually, you are looking at a small toy floating in a quiet, shallow bay. The ripples in the water look big because the object is so small. It is a trick of perspective. They took the photo early in the morning. Then, Wetherell convinced his friend, Robert Wilson the surgeon, to develop the film and sell it. They knew the newspaper would believe a doctor more than a humiliated hunter. The plan worked perfectly. The Daily Mail bought the photo, and the legend of the surgeon's photo was born. For 60 years, people argued about this photo. Scientists analyzed the waves. They talked about angles and shadows. But the truth finally came out in 1994. Christian Sperling, the man who built the model, was very old. He was 90 years old and nearing the end of his life. He decided he didn't want to carry the secret to his grave. He confessed everything. He explained about the toy submarine, the wood putty, and the revenge plot. The most famous photo of the Loch Ness Monster was officially dead. It was a fake from the very beginning. But what about other evidence? Over the years, there have been sonar readings and blurry films. Most of these have been explained too. The sonar often picks up large groups of fish or thermal layers in the water that reflect sound. The blurry films are often just boat wakes, floating logs, or swimming deer. Recently, in 2019, scientists did a massive DNA study. They took water samples from all over Loch Ness to see what lives there. They found DNA from 3,000 different species. They found dog DNA, sheep DNA, human DNA, and lots of fish. But they found zero evidence of a reptile or a dinosaur. What they did find was a huge amount of eel DNA. This suggests that if there is anything strange down there, it might just be a very large eel. So, if the photo is fake and the DNA is negative, why do we still love this story? Why do people still stare at the water hoping to see a hump? It is because we love mystery. The world is mapped out now. We have satellites that can see everything. Loch Ness is one of the last places where we feel like magic might still exist. Even though the surgeon's photo was a lie, it tells us something true about human nature. We see what we want to see. When we look at a dark lake, our brains try to make sense of the shapes, and sometimes, a floating log becomes a monster. The story of the Loch Ness Monster is not really about a dinosaur. It is a story about a prank that got out of hand. It is a story about a hunter who wanted revenge and fooled the world for half a century. So, the next time you see that famous black and white picture, remember, it's not a monster. It's a toy submarine. But don't let that stop you from visiting. The lake is beautiful, even without Nessie. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button.